Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Legally Bound Business and Real Estate Explained, where we bring you the latest in real estate and business law. For today's episode, we have some great, exciting news for you and analysis as well. Starting off with the FTX lawsuit. As you know, Sam Bankman Fried is being tried for many different crimes, including fraud, money laundering, and these charges carry some serious penalties, including 20 years in prison. And Mr. Fox today, ladies and gentlemen, will be talking about
Amazon.
Yay! So we have an action-packed episode for you. See you soon. So let's start with the Sam Bankman Fried lawsuit, okay? The FTX lawsuit. As you know, he's being charged with fraud, conspiracy, wire fraud, and money laundering.
Well, what was he doing to get in such trouble?
So here's essentially what they're saying: is you had FTX, which is the main exchange, and
for Bitcoin or something like that.
For all cryptos, okay, for not just Bitcoin, but for all other different types of coins, okay. And then you had Almeda Research, which was a hedge fund, also founded by SBF, Sam Bankman Fried, okay? Almeda had access to FTX's accounts, including the accounts where all the depositors kept their money. And Almeda was allowed to withdraw whatever funds it wanted from those customer accounts and other FTS accounts without seeking anyone's permission.
That's not right.
And some of the stats there show that Almeda has had as much of a $65 billion line of credit.
Did banks know about this going on?
Yeah, he claims that he was aware of what the structure was, although it's interesting. SBF has a very interesting story about this whole lawsuit, the events that led up to FTX's Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And get this, the role played by Sullivan in Cromwell in forcing him into filing a bankruptcy when he didn't want to and thought that they could make their depositors whole.
And that was a law firm, right?
Yes. Sullivan and Cromwell is a preeminent law firm that handles a lot of bankruptcies. The bankruptcy trustee whom they've appointed is John Ray, and he's the guy who was also the bankruptcy trustee on the Enron case. Okay, so a couple of interesting things. His parents have also been fingered for potential liability in this lawsuit. And here are a couple of interesting things. His parents have a $16 million home in the Bahamas, which they obtained after FTX was founded. We know that his parents bought $140 million worth of properties, okay? And here's the interesting thing. These properties were bought through FTX Property Holdings, Inc., which is not the entity that filed for bankruptcy. Okay? So,
that's weird.
That's very weird, okay? Now, here's what Sam Bankman Fried has been saying throughout this entire process. He seems to indicate that he's the fall guy. Some people have said that, look, SBF is just the fall guy. His parents are the puppet masters. And the architect of this is actually the general counsel of FTX. Apparently, this guy, people say, has been involved in many similar schemes before, although I don't have a lot of detail about it, and that's not what we're going to be talking about here. Okay, now, prosecutors allege SBF secretly moves funds from FTX to Almeda. Almeda Research is the hedge fund that we talked about, okay? How much money was moved from FTX to Almeda? Billions, okay? We don't exactly have an idea of how much precisely, but it's a lot. Now, SBF has stated what he has said in many interviews before, that lawyers pressured him into filing this bankruptcy, that Binance, okay, engineered a negative PR campaign to bring down FTX. Now, Binance is another crypto brokerage, and they were thinking about buying FTX at one point, but then their CEO tweets and says, something to the effect of, no, we can't really buy this. They're having liquidity problems or something to that effect. And that started a chain reaction, which led to all the depositors then going to FTX and saying, I want my money back. Okay, because apparently they thought that when Binance's CEO said, hey, look, we're not going to go through with this because there are some huge problems, they took that to mean that FTX was either insolvent or about to become insolvent. Okay? He also says that FTX could be solvent and had billions of dollars in offerings of financings, but those offers were only valid if FTX was allowed to start again. And it wasn't allowed to start again because it was forced to file bankruptcy, Chapter 11. The U.S. liquidation lawyers, the law firm of Sullivan and Cromwell, gets hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees, money that could go to FTX's creditors. And he also says he's been sad and has been on antidepressants. But that's besides the point. Now, here's what I find really fishy about this whole thing. FTX was set up in the Bahamas. Okay? Bahamas has its own version of the SEC. Okay? That entity ignored or looked the other way when it came to showing the necessary capital requirements that you need to establish such an exchange in the first place. Okay? So the Bahamian authorities are looking somewhere else. They're not looking at the requirements that are needed. So some have speculated or said that that's because FTX had no money and they bribed certain officials there in the Bahamas to be able to set up this massive fraud scheme beyond U.S. jurisdiction. Okay? So some very, very interesting things there. Now, as far as the potential legal defenses go for SBF in this fraud trial, he's saying, or his lawyers are arguing, that he had no intent to defraud his creditors and his depositors, that he was acting in good faith. Sure, there was an absence of robust corporate controls to make sure that funds do not get mismanaged, but that is a far cry from the sort of bad guy with an intent to defraud that they've painted SBF as.
I was kind of curious. What kind of background did this guy have? I know he was brilliant. He came up, he got into the cryptocurrency world. Did he have any experience at all with large corporate finance management? Pretty much a naive kid who knew a lot about this thing and thought, well, we can make money there. And then he's surrounded by people who are probably looking at this and like, he's going to get a lot of money. He's going to get a lot of money in one place and he doesn't have no idea how to take care of it. We will convince him that this is a great way to set up this situation so that we can then steal it.
Could be, because you see, a lot of people have suggested that that was indeed what was going on, given the sophistication of this entire scheme, ladies and gentlemen. This is beyond what just one college grad kid can do, no matter how brilliant he is, okay? He's an MIT grad, sure. He's a math whiz, sure. But that doesn't translate into you knowing, okay, I want to set up something in Bahamas. I want to be able to have the Bahamian authorities look the other way for capital requirements. And a lot of this money was donated to a lot of Democratic congressmen. Now, some people who are very, very skeptical about this, okay, they're like, you telling me that these congressmen didn't know that this money was fraudulent?
Well, what was their role? I mean, as a congressman.
Well, I mean, I don't know what their role.
Did they invest in it?
No. Campaign donations were given by FTX to these Democratic congressmen.
Yeah, no Republicans. All right. Well, maybe
although Sam Bankman Fried did say that he was considering at one point giving Trump $5 billion. And the reason why he was considering doing that was to convince Trump not to run.
Okay, all right.
So finally, folks, with the last thought that I'll leave you is that some people have talked about selective enforcement, okay, by the SEC. of the FTX scenario. In fact, Congressman Patrick Henry just roasted Gary Gensler, the SEC chairman, accusing him of creating real harm for consumers in U.S. markets by creating more confusion and lasting damage. And one of the main things that he brought up in that hearing was he wanted to know what was discussed in the private meetings between Gary Gensler and FTX people just before it filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
What were you guys discussing, huh? We don't have a transcript. We don't know. And this was just before the bankruptcy. So a lot of fishy stuff that's been going on with this entire FTX saga. So stay tuned for more on this topic as we move along now to the Amazon lawsuit by the FTC and its chairman, Lena Khan. And I'll let Mr. Fox
this is really interesting because, well, first of all, boy, don't we all love Amazon.
Oh, I love Amazon.
I mean, I was talking to Fez right before about, remember the 1980s at all? And if you wanted to buy a toaster, what you had to do? Well, you had to go through maybe the Sunday papers. There would be some advertisements, and then maybe as well, I'm going down to the mall next week. I'll go walk around Kmart and Sears. They had a thing called Sears.
Sears, the Sears catalog, man.
Or they'd go through these catalogs. You had to go someplace. But all of a sudden, here we are, Amazon. I want something. I go to the computer. I open it. I order it. And it appears on my doorstep the next morning. It's just amazing. Well, okay, wonderful. Why, then, is the Federal Trade Commission so upset with them, right? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, after all...
Why are you messing with my lovely Amazon?
Haven't they created billions of dollars of value by saving people so much time through the Prime mechanism?
They have, let's see, a couple hundred million customers. They sell, they have more than a couple 100,000 sellers who sell on it. Well, last week, the Federal Trade Commission filed a lawsuit based on violation of antitrust laws, which are basically saying they were anti-competitive. Okay, so what exactly did that mean? Well, first of all, the Federal Trade Commission, they enforce our antitrust laws. Antitrust laws go back to like the 1890s. The very first act was the Sherman Act.
And what are these designed to break monopolies?
Well, that's what they were for. Back in the late 1800s, the petroleum industries, they had this really interesting way of creating trusts in each different state where they were ruthless. If they wanted access to a railroad and you weren't going to let them, well, they killed you and burned down your house.
Wow.
Okay, so it was really bad, and this was a nationwide problem. They just the Rockefellers, etc. They just they were ruthless. So the Sherman Act was created to break up these trusts, and that's why the act they're referred to as antitrust laws. And essentially what they're meant to do is to protect competition, to allow people to actually enter the marketplace and make sure that prices then are kept lower, because you don't have somebody telling you that you must charge this price as you did when you have a monopoly.
Monopolies do, right.
A monopoly will say, okay, I'm going to sell you my widgets, Sears or Costco, but you must charge $99 and no less. That kind of stuff.
So how is Prime?
How is Amazon and Prime? Well, Amazon started this something called anti-discount policies. So basically, what they would do to the sellers on Amazon is they would say, okay, if you advertise this widget for 50% of what all of the other people who sell widgets on Amazon are selling for, well, when people do a query for widgets, yours will be on page 200 of the list of things. So nobody will ever see that you have that lower price.
So they just basically put you down, and you're invisible as far as someone searching for that product goes.
Exactly. So obviously that's bad for the consumer. It's because they don't get the benefit of the lower price. Bad for the seller because he doesn't get the sale. Another thing is this Prime thing that we have going on, which I love. I mean, if it's Prime, I'm going to get it today.
Yeah.
Anyway, well,
Yeah.
thing is though, for a seller to be on Prime, they have to pay even more money and more commission for their sale. And even without that, the FTC indicates on their website that Amazon takes more than out of every $2, they take $1.
50%.
They're taking 50% of all this. That's what Amazon gets. So that's, of course, restricting the profits. It's lowering the profit margins for all the sellers.
Oh, wow.
So bottom line is, the FTC and 17 other states' attorneys generals have filed this lawsuit last week. You can go read the complaint. It's online. It's about 100 pages long, but it goes through all of the things. Oddly enough, there's stuff that's blacked out. I don't anyway. But I encourage you to go look at that, because it is pretty bad, because ultimately it's costing us money. Even as wonderful as Amazon is, we have that problem. So, yeah.
So, explain to me what the lawsuit is
seeking.
Like,
Okay.
what is the end result? Like, Mr. Amazon, we want you to do what?
Yeah. And at the end, I know that I'm supposed to be somewhere, but let me go real quick. Can we take a break?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just take a break. I got a call.
All right. So Terry, you were telling us about
What does the FTC want? Yeah.
what is this lawsuit about? What is the ultimate goal?
They first of all, they want them to stop this conduct of the discounted. Sorry. They want them to stop the conduct where they try to forbid sellers from competitive pricing. Right? I mean, that's one of the big things. It's competition. So they want them to be stop doing that. These anti-discount policies. They want to lower the prices to the consumers for these Prime services, right? And they want money. So part of this lawsuit is going to go into, well, how much money did they make that they should not have made?
Wow.
And then they will make them pay that in fines.
Sounds like speculative damages to me.
Well, they prove them at trial. They go through, let's see all the books. It's not nice. I mean, the federal government, when they want all your records, you give them all the records. And then they hire about 400 lawyers to go through all of those documents and pick out the stuff that they want to complain about.
Well, that's a lot of business.
The analysis.
That's a lot of business for the legal team that's representing Amazon, I'm sure.
True. Yeah. It's going to cost them a lot of money. Yeah. They will have to hire a similar number of attorneys, because in the document production, just it will be thousands of bank boxes of records that will have to be turned over.
Wow.
And but there's an industry for doing this, in which they all of those records will be pulled and copied and sent off to a place where they'll all be scanned, and then you'll have a couple hundred lawyers sitting in a room coding all of them. It's quite the process. And
so what do you think, though? At the end of the day, do you think the FTC stands a chance to
succeed? Oh yeah. I think that they'll get their pound of flesh,
one way or the other.
Yeah. And when it comes to the government intervention and what they look at and what they don't look at, like in your case where you're saying, where was the government looking when this was going on? I mean, in the recent months, with all of the things that have been done in the political world, a lot of people are asking, why wasn't the Department of Justice doing things about these things 2 years ago?
Right.
Why is it that the federal government waited until a state or two states decided to do something about it?
And then they jumped onto the bandwagon.
Then they jump on and of course, I think, what I think?
Yeah.
I think it's essentially the feds do not like to lose, and they will not bring a case that they think there's a chance they
That
could
they
lose,
will lose.
because once again they don't get promoted if they have a loss.
Yeah.
So even if it's something that they really should go after, a lot of times I think they shy away because they're afraid, well, I got my job and my promotion and my pension to think about. I don't want to screw that up.
That's probably what's on Lena Khan's mind. Yeah. That's probably what's on. She wants another promotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
She probably
very good.
she probably wants to become Attorney General next. Who knows? So
Anyway.
So in any case, well, Terry, thank you for that analysis. That was great. Helped me expand my mindset into what they are trying to get out of Amazon in this case. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you really like this analysis in today's episode of Legally Bound. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you derived some value out of this channel, and don't forget to join us in the next episode. See you in the next video.